Aloha, welcome to the seventh episode of the eighth series of the Temple of Surf, the podcast. Today with us from California, legendary shaper Malcolm Campbell. We discuss with him about surfboard innovation, surfboard, surf, and much more. Hello, Mr. Malcolm. Welcome to the show. Where are you today?
I'm at home in Oxnard, California. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's nice.
Thank you. Thank you. We will try to have a nice conversation today about, of course, surf and surfboards. But we can talk about also hydrodynamics if you want. Anyway, it's all connected.
Yeah, whatever you think is, whatever you would like. Yeah, yeah.
Cool. So the first question that I have for you that I ask at the beginning to everybody here on the show is, in your opinion, what is the most important thing in surfing?
I would say just to enjoy it, from the time the kids start surfing until, well, I'm 70 now. You just keep that enjoyment and keep it all in perspective. And I think this is the enjoyment of it.
It's easy to keep the enjoyment, in your opinion, or it requires some works?
Sometimes it can require some work. I think especially as we sometimes when we get a little bit older, especially if you've grown up surfing in areas that weren't very populated or weren't very crowded, and then as 30, 40 years later, you're living in an area that has many more surfers. So you have to take that into consideration. And so sometimes you have to, well, not sometimes, you have to put your minds in a frame of, you have to share a little bit more because there's more people.
Exactly. We need to be more generous, right?
Yeah. Sometimes it's a little bit hard when you're used to having it all pretty much to yourself. But
yeah, it's an interesting point because let's say, okay, 30 years ago, it was different than today. Somebody can say that you were lucky to have a lot of waves full of for you. But then if we project this in 30 years from now, where all these people will be,
things have changed so much with surfing. Things have changed so much with surfing in the last 20 years that it's hard to tell if it's still going to be exponentially growing or if it's going to level off a little bit. It's difficult to tell.
Totally. And again, I started this podcast during the year of COVID, right? And at that time, I was calling and talking with a lot of shapers, surfers, and the industry was booming, right? Because after the confinement, right, the number of surfboards that were demanded by the consumer, they couldn't move, and they were surfing local break was
it was crazy. The industry in California, the production capacity in California during those 2 years was maxed out. It was, I think every fiberglass shop was packed. It was taking a very long time to get boards, finished. Like there were times when, I would have 20, finished shaped blanks sitting, waiting just to get to a glass shop because everybody's shops were so full well, the glassers that we use didn't have any more space to store the boards waiting to be glassed. It was really unexpected. I never expected that. I expected that the production boards like soft tops, and I figured during the pandemic that would really increase, but I never expected that, custom foam and fiberglass, boards, the demand would increase that much. It was pretty mind blowing, actually.
Yeah. And also because people were looking, as you said, to usually a premium price surfboard even to start, right? So, and not just a soft top where they could buy at a very cheap cost. And
it was really surprising. I think now it's calmed down some, and it's getting more back to normal.
Okay, at least the consumer, they don't have to wait for like 1.5 years to get.
Yeah, yeah. Now it's back a little bit, much better now. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I didn't want to ask you again because I saw that you replied so many interviews about the Bonzer and all the technological, if you want to say, innovation. But if we have to go through a bit your career, what were the two most meaningful moments for you related to, of course, like you as a surfboard shaper?
Well, I think initially, well, there's a couple moments. I mean, when we were during the late '60s, the shortboard revolution was really picking up speed, and it was funny. My dad, our dad said to Duncan and I, to my brother and I, they said, look, if you guys are going to keep up, it looks like things are going to be changing really quickly. So if you're going to keep up with this, you're going to have to learn how to make surfboards because we're not going to be buying you a surfboard every 6 months. So that was our initial kind of kick in the pants to get started. But then really the most significant was when we made the first Bonzer in 1970 because my father and Duncan and I had sat around and were just kind of brainstorming on how to make really short boards have more speed and controlled stability and be able to ride a wider range of waves because the boards are really small and the single fin and twin fins, were not really cutting it for that short of boards at the time. So the most significant moment really was when we tried the Bonzer, the first Bonzer that we made, three fin, the first time we rode it. Really, the first wave, we could tell that we really had something. We really had something here, and so it was sort of a eureka moment in a sense of now what are we going to do? We've got this thing that works, and we're gonna now what?
Yeah, and I was reading the story obviously, and I saw that being a Copeland was the first one, right? That gave you a shot with.
Yes, because we had been for about 3 years. We had been making the boards just for ourselves and our friends, and we had sent a letter to Surfer Magazine, um, and with some grainy black and white photos, and they kindly refused, the article saying. So we realized that the only way to get the word out was to see if a bigger manufacturer, a reputable manufacturer, would get it would take the idea on, and we sent out a letter to a lot of the major manufacturers, and Bing was the only one that responded. Yeah, and that was in the spring of 1973. Uh, so they invited us to come down, and we had our really crude garage shaped and glass surfboards in my parents' garage, but we had some Super 8 movies of us riding the boards, and we were decent surfers at that time, not fantastic, but we were decent, and but you could tell by watching the films that the boards worked, and Mike Eaton and Bing, they looked and they could see, wow, these things work. And they said, well, we'll make some for our team riders, and we'll take it from there. And yeah, so the boards worked out for the guys, and Bing started advertising it. And that really launched our path into into the surfboard sort of world.
I had the opportunity to talk and to have as a guest of the show Mr. Copeland, being Copeland.
All right, great.
I found it like amazing man, very curious, and I guess that curiosity was the one that helped you kind of to connect with him, right? Because he was at that time Bing was even today, different way, of course, but at that time Bing was one of the best brand, like right?
Yeah. Yes.
longboard specifically,
Yeah.
not shortboard at that time.
Yeah, they had moved into the shortboards at that time, and they were still, pretty much, kind of top, the top manufacturers for quality, and they had a really good team, a lot of really good surfers on their team at the time, and so they were still, I mean, right up at the top.
And tell me something, is like, when I talk with shapers, I always talk about the relationship between a surfer and a shaper to improve the way a surfboard is made. Obviously, with the Bonzer, there is a lot of innovation driven by hydrodynamics, right? Because it's a fin, surfboard, water, right?
Right.
So for you, it's like still like innovation goes through like technical innovation, or is still important the feedback that you have from a surfer that tries the board that you create?
Oh yes. Well, once we came up with once we dialed in the Bonzer three fin system. Once we made the first one, and then we made some adjustments on fin position and fin size to improve it. But that was all just us, because it was basically Duncan and I and a couple of friends, Tom Kimbrell and Russ Short, some of our close friends, Cliff Collins. So it was just a very small group of us riding the boards. And so it was, pretty narrow range of feedback. But we did between, it was mostly Duncan and I, of figuring it out, but as time went on, as the years went on, the results or listening to good surfers that were riding the boards and listening to their feedback was always part of fine tuning of the boards. It was more a fine tuning of the actual surfboard itself, because the Bonzer system, the Bonzer fin system, the three fin system, at that point was pretty much there, and so it from that point it was really refining our shaping and working on the boards, whether, okay, we need a little bit more rocker, we need a little bit, different template for, different types of surf and things like that. And so the feedback, most of the changes that we made through feedback from riders was more about the actual surfboard itself, and not the Bonzer design per se.
Okay. And do you remember one particular surfer that gave you a very important feedback that helped you to create this incremental innovation, if you want to say, or modification in your surfboard? Somebody that really like gave you like a great suggestion or a great
Gosh, not suggestion in particular, but Russ Short and Cliff Collins, two of our friends that were extremely good surfers. So I think those two guys were probably the most at that in the early, this is in the early to mid 70s. The most important, feedback we got from them, both verbally and watching them surf, as well as, ourselves. But those were two of the guys that were really pushing, they were pushing the limits of boards more so than, some of the other guys that were riding the board. So yeah, Cliff and Russ, and that changed as time went on, because into the 80s, the later 80s, where we were started to make boards for more like really top level surfers and things, and so we would get some feedback from them.
And at the beginning of the interview, I asked you what is the most important thing in surfing. If I ask you the same in shaping, in your opinion, what is it?
Well, the most important thing.
Yeah.
Well, obviously you have to enjoy it, because you're spending hours on end in solitary confinement. Just
Definitely.
We grew up making things. My grandfather had a wood shop. My dad had tools and wood shop. So we were schooled in using tools from a very young age. So it was kind of a natural for us. It was sort of a natural thing once we started, making surfboards. And so then we were able to make things that would contribute to the thing that we loved to do most at that time was surfing. And what better could we do than make our own surfboards? And then now 50 years later, yeah, you have to enjoy it to keep at it. And I still work full time and shape 5-6 days a week, and it's work, but you enjoy what you do. And also it's the interaction with people that's really important, and you're hoping that you can provide surfboards that are providing enjoyment for people. And that's really sort of the thing that keeps you going, that the enthusiasm of other people can really help keep your own enthusiasm up.
Definitely so important. What was the among I don't know, I think you shaped thousands of boards now, right? So was there one was particularly meaningful for you? I don't know, maybe because you shaped for a friend or for a very important competition, or just I don't know.
Well, there's a few, but one kind of sticks out. I was asked to. This was 20. Gosh, I don't know. It's probably over 20 years ago. But Billy Hamilton had asked us to make him a Bonzer, and there's a longer funny story about that, how that came about. But when I shaped that board for Billy, that was the most nerve-wracking shaping experience I've ever had. Because when we were younger, we would look to Billy because he had such great style and he was such a good surfer. So he was kind of one of our heroes. And then here we go. He asked us to make him a Bonzer. It was a 5-fin Bonzer, and that was really nerve-wracking. And then months went by, and we didn't hear anything back, and I just would go, oh no, hope he liked it. We didn't hear anything, and then I think it was really almost about 4 months later, got back to us, and he had ridden the board and let us know how well he liked it, and it worked really well for him. And so that was really kind of a momentous thing for us, because again, it was somebody we really looked up to. And so that was great. And he still makes Bonzers today. He rode the board, learned from that, and now he makes his own for people. He make quite a few. So for us, that's really a great thing that we were able to share that and to have him appreciate it.
Of course. I remember the nickname was the Jesus of Cool, right? Bill Hamilton.
Yeah. So it was really nice.
And if I ask you, what was the best wave of your life?
Well, there's different things happen on different waves, but
what's the most memorable, the one that you?
Yeah, one of the most memorable waves was at G-Land at Garagegan. It was the only time I've only been to Indonesia. I've only been there once. That was back in 1985, and we were surfing Garagegan, and I got a wave there that was really pretty amazing. I'm a regular foot, and so it was backside, and the wave was really hollow, and I turned in, and I was in basically behind. I couldn't see it, so we were so far back you couldn't see out the front. You basically had like the mist and the kind of the fun, and then boom, it just exploded and shot me out. And so that was probably one of the most crazy waves. Yeah.
And when you think about that wave, like from a sensorial perspective. It's more like the smell of the wave, the light. What makes you remember? If you think back to that one, it's like
I think it was just the thing that I almost remember most was the spray coming back at me, because when the wave kind of, it seemed like it sort of exploded and just shot me out. And so when I came out, the spray had already, was in front. So when I came out, then the spray hitting me in the face was probably the most physical,
is
sort of aspect of that, and also I just didn't think I was gonna make it out. So
you made it.
yeah.
Going back to shaping, of course, like today, one of the biggest topic, and I don't want to create polemics, about is hand shaping versus like
Hmm.
machine shaping.
Right.
Where do you position yourself? Like is machine shaping part of your life? It's hand shaping still super important for you? How do you see?
Yes. Yeah, I do both. But we do more with the machine right now, in order to be able to keep up with our orders. I mean, my personal feeling about hand shaping versus, it's not really hand shaping versus machine shaping so much, other than I really do believe that to be considered, a master craftsman and shaper, you need to be able to hand shape a board at a very high level.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays people can make really good. You can make surfboards that are, work really well, and not really know how to use a planer that much, and do a hand shape board from scratch. And that's well and good. We're at 2023 or whatever. But I think to really be the full craftsman in terms of an experienced shaper, you need to know your way around all the using the planer and saws and all the hand tools. I do think that that's really important. But in terms of a value of the finished product, I think that machine shaped boards, are very, very good. And it depends on the original design, though, and where it comes from, the shaper that it comes from, and so forth. But what I've always done, is any files that we make to use for the machine shaped boards were originally created from a hand shaped board. I don't create a new model just on the screen. If we're going to do a new custom, like we'll do a new custom model that's different than what we have, I'll hand shape that, and then we'll map that, make a file, and then make sure that, and then sometimes you have to fine tune those. You have to go in and fine tune those files and make sure that it represents your original hand shape. Once you have that, let's say you have a 6/6 of this particular model that you've shaped. You get a file from that, then we use the machine to, well, okay, well, we'll make, so we need a 6/8, and then you can change the parameters on the file, and adjust rocker and so forth. But all of our models were originally created from those files were created from hand shaped boards.
And now I have a difficult question. I don't know if it's difficult, but nevertheless, in your career as a shaper, do you have like any regret? Regret in the sense of maybe opportunity that you miss, that you thought you still think, if I would have done that, or
Hmm.
happy of what happened, and that's it, story of the life.
Well, I think no, we don't. No, Duncan and I, we don't have any. We don't really have any regrets on that level. There were other people, let's see, back when I guess probably in the early '80s when the thruster came in was kind of a interesting time because we had been doing our three fin bonzers for 10 years. And then 1981, the Simon with the thruster came in, and so we were going, oh, we were kind of excited because, oh, okay, well, yeah, they finally got three fins going here. It's not like our bonzer fins, but we're thinking, yeah, things are moving along. And a lot of people, but we were going to stick to what we were doing. And people go, oh, will you make me a thruster? And I said, so we said, well, let's wait and see if this thing pans out, and if it's going good, yeah, then we'll talk about it. But kind of, and then we did, when friends or so, yeah, I want to try one of these thrusters. And we said, okay, well, we'll make you a thruster with this style fins, but you have to let us put our concaves, bonzer concaves in there. Then we'll make you a thruster. But to answer more directly to your question, people would always suggest to us, well, you should just get in and make everything. Don't just be so focused on your bonzer. So they were thinking that our business could improve, we could make more surfboards and this and that. But when we first came on to when we first designed the bonzer and realized that we really had something, we took that on as a responsibility in a sense because we really felt we had a design that can contribute something to surfing. So between the three fin system combined with the double concaves through the tail has proven out to be whether it's a thruster or whether it's a bonzer, and also the concaves through the fin area. All that has proved out to be very, very important in surfboards, whether they're hard cut channels or whether they're smooth, concave, single, double concaves. All that's really panned out, and so no, we just were determined to stick with it, and you know the boards at this point in time are performing at a really high level, and the best surfers in the world get on them, and so yeah, no regrets. Just it was a long haul.
It's no regrets, and also the legacy, that the Bonzer has, and continue to have nowadays, So it's very important that you are sticking to what your product, your invention, right? And you brought it forward until today and more. So that's great.
Yeah.
But so tell me, because at the time of you came up with Bonzer is about hydrodynamics, right? So
yes.
Did you study it? Did you end up discover?
No, we didn't. Well, we did do some research before we, went along with creating the first sponsor, and it mostly had to do with boat hulls and so forth. And my dad was our father was really into. He was a photojournalist and really into sports car racing and things like that. But he also was very into boat hull design, just very interested. He didn't have any engineering training, either, but he was just really into that kind of stuff. So we found a drawing of actually a sailboat that I think it was from the late 1890s, and it had a twin dagger boards, center board, twin dagger board, one to each side of the center, and they were even single foil. So we looked at that, and then we kind of work the ideas through on where we would want to put fins in order to create more stability and speed and edge control. So in that sense, we were thinking about functionality and not so much particularly hydrodynamics in that scientific sense at that point. It was purely just trying to develop something through sort of intuitively try to come up with something functional. After we did come up with the long keel-shaped side fins forward of the center fin, and then we started riding it, we started realizing and assessing what was happening, and what was making. Then we were figuring out what was making the boards do what they do and perform so well. So then that was when we started to realize the in a sense the hydrodynamic efficiency of it. So it was pretty much an intuitive development, and then beginning to try to understand why this worked. We go, it works, but now we got to figure out why this works.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that easy, right? It's not that easy.
Right. And so then when we added the concaves, that was just to accentuate what was happening with the water flow coming back through the tail area. So in a sense, the double concave, the V in the tail with the double concave running through it, that became more of a hydrodynamic, issue. And again, once we did the concaves, rode the boards, and then we're just again sort of analyzing, okay, what are these concaves doing? What are the fins doing? So then we had to, because we really needed to come up with an explanation for why it worked.
Definitely scientific, to prove the concept, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, we didn't start out with a formula. We had to create one later.
Talking about hydrodynamics, one of the last question that I ask on the show, and I will ask also you, is the best relationship advice. And Eric Gordon, the son of Gordon Smith, he told me, Alessandro, my best relationship advice is to do the dishes, because at least you learn something about hydrodynamics. And so
do the what?
The dishes at home, washing the dishes.
Yeah.
To understand something about hydrodynamics. So it was not that technical, but it made me laugh. Nevertheless.
No, but that's funny. That's funny that you mentioned that, because when we were young and we were starting to make the surfboards and we were talking with our father, if you take a spoon and put it underneath the faucet with the water coming down, the backside of the spoon is curved, right? So when the water hits this backside of the spoon, it curves around and adheres to the surface. Wow. So it changes the direction of the water going, but it adheres to it, rather than if it's the other way or flat, or if it's the other way, the water scoots away. So that teaches you that a rounder surface, water adheres to a curved surface. So you can apply that hydrodynamic. That's a very important point when you're thinking about surfboards and where you want soft rails, where you want hard rails, how much roll you want to put in your bottom, where you want a little roll and relief, or where you want the flat. So that simple thing of being at the sink, like he said, there's there's a lot to learn from that.
Definitely, it has always to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. We're gonna conclude our interview today with 6 questions, very fast. Please answer the first answer that comes up to your mind. Okay.
Okay.
The best surfboard that you ever ridden, that you rode?
Probably a 6'4" Bonzer egg.
Okay. Your favorite surfer of all time?
I'd have to say Wayne Lynch.
Yeah.
For not just for his surfing, but just his ideas, just as a person and as a surfer. Wayne Lynch.
Right. Personal question: your favorite song?
Favorite song? Oh God, that's really difficult.
What kind of music? Is it rock and roll?
Yeah, we like a wide range, everything from jazz, rock and roll, classical, some country. But a favorite song, I think that changes over time. I think one of my favorite songs is Well, the Kinks are probably all time one of my favorite groups, and favorite song Oklahoma, USA. Let's just go with that. Or Talking Heads' Naive Melody.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Favorite surf spot?
Oh, I guess I'd have to go with our home breaks. Well, there's two, if I can say, Oxnard Shores and Silver Strand.
And your favorite shaper of all time?
Yes, as far as my all-time favorite shaper, that's kind of difficult. But there's so many shapers that I respect, from past and present. But I'd have to say that my all-time favorite shaper would be Max McDonald, and the reason for that is that back in the late '80s, Max and I collaborated on with his E-wing. Max showed me his elevated wing that he designed, and we combined it with our Bonzer, with the Bonzer design, and it was so successful that we've been using it ever since on a variety of our Bonzer models, and it's just been just such a crucial addition to the various shapes that we make. And so, yeah, Max is a great craftsman, wonderful shaper. He was a great surfer and just a wonderful guy. And yeah, so I'd say Max, in this sense, is my all-time favorite shaper and a very close friend.
And the last question is a bit unusual. I ask everybody on this show. I would like to know your best relationship advice.
Best relationship advice? Empathy.
Empathy is a good one.
Empathy and reciprocal maintenance.
I think is a good one, because especially in the world of today, I think it's if we would have much empathy, much more empathy, all of us, it would be a better world for sure. No?
Yeah, it's important to understand, be able to try to understand where people are coming from. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show with me today, and I look forward to talk to you very soon.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate it, Alessandro. It's really nice, and I hope I wasn't too evasive there at the end.
Oh, no, it was perfect. Thank you so much for your time, and I wish you a great day.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Hi, it's me again. I hope you enjoyed our today's episode. If you want to know more about us, please follow www.thetempleofsurf.com and all our social media. Mahalo!